for the Social Media Pulse community in all the places on YouTube, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, in all the places that we can stream live from the Social Media Pulse community. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with this format, this is an open office hour. Mostly I'm here to answer your questions, but I do have a little mini training today set up that you might have heard about, which is how to write a proposal that converts. And this is proposals for social media managers and maybe small agency owners. And if I sound a little funny, it's because I am living in the middle of allergy zone 1000 in Iowa, and I am allergic to all the things. So there you go. It's not the microphone, it's not the tech. It's my nose. So we're going to get into it, but again, this is for you. If you have questions about anything to do with social media marketing or management or being a social media manager. This particular mini training today is mostly for those who are starting out and are still learning how to create proposals to get new business. And I'm going to share with you some very important tips that you can incorporate right now and show you some examples of some things and give you some ideas of how to do things. Now, if you are here, thank you very much for saying something. Yes, and thank you. Sean, I know it's just like one thing after another. It's not COVID, by the way, I have checked. So thank you very much for being here. And if you have any questions, I know you in particular do a lot of work and have a lot of proposals that you send out. Maybe you'll learn something from this. If you have any particular tips, make sure you put it in the chat and we can share it with everyone. All right. So we're going to go ahead and bring this up. And this is a interesting format. Let's move it to this one. So today we're going to talk a little bit about how to write a proposal, a social media management proposal that converts. And I do have some ideas about this, so let's go ahead and get into it. Now, when you've had that initial conversation with a potential client, hopefully by the end of that, you know exactly what they want. And I have to stress here that that initial consultation will make all the difference in creating a proposal that converts. If you are not listening carefully to the potential client and getting exactly what they want, then your proposal is going to be a mismatch to what they felt like they needed. So you need to know exactly what they want. You need to listen very carefully. And I bet, Sean, you've had experience with this where people come to an initial conversation and maybe they don't know what they want. They just heard they need to be on social media, they need to be online, and they don't really know what to expect. And then you also get a little bit of a savvy business owner who has maybe dabbled in doing it themselves or had some bad experience in the past. So you need to listen to all of that. But the most important thing you need to be listening to in that initial conversation is the language that they use. Very, very important. You'll start to pick up on what they are trying to say, and you'll notice it's not necessarily the same words that a social media manager would use. So this is your first hint about the whole thing. So when you build a proposal, basically what you're doing is you're listing what I've always called a list of expectations. And that is what it is that you gleaned from that first initial conversation in terms of what the client is expecting you to do. Now, how you say those things becomes very important. And the reason I want to have you really consider your words in your proposal is this. Most, in our industry, we'll say, oh, we have SEO services, or we can optimize your postings, or we can create these monthly reports. And we use terminology that we use inside this industry. But depending on the client that you're talking to, those words make no sense to them. Now, you can spend some time educating them on what that means. But instead of saying something like SEO services, why don't you just say, help people find you online? It's the same thing. It's just the difference in the words that you use. The words on the right are the words that they might use in doing a Google search. A business owner would not necessarily type in SEO services unless they've read an article or they've heard somebody say something. If they just need to be found online, they're going to type in, help people find me online. How can I get people to find me online? Those are the words that they're going to use. So in your proposal, your header section titles, instead of saying SEO services, you put help people find you online, and we'll do this and this and this and this, right? So think about the words that business owners use instead of the social media management industry terms. So, and I want to show this because everybody has had this experience, Sean, where listening is key. He put together a proposal early on, and it's not something that they wanted because you're not listening to what they actually want. And it's literally every social media manager has had this experience, and you learn from it, right? And you build your next proposal a little differently. And through the last 10 years, I think I have modified my proposal almost every time, because to me it feels like a custom thing to build for a business owner. So that's my experience with it. So now also you need to consider the scope and organizing how they see things. So I'm going to show you this particular document here. This is a sample services proposal. And there's a couple of things on here I want you to take note of. And there are also some things on here that if I were using this as a template that I would definitely change. But so this is some instructions on how to use this particular document. But notice the way this particular proposal, and remember, we'll talk about this in a minute. A proposal is not a contract. A proposal is just a proposal of what the services would be, right? So in this particular organization, they've put everything inside of each section, each social platform. So for example, this is a Facebook business page creation, putting the price and making sure that they know that this is just a one-time fee. And then this is the list of expectations here. The cover images, the profile images, the call to action buttons, all the settings, admins connected, the URL, SEO about section. So again, here's the words that I would change and make this. I would say edit about section to move people to your website. Okay, so that would be the call to action. So again, they might not know what a social media policy is. And I would say Facebook instructions for particular events. And then I would list emergencies, bad press, all the things that would be in a social media policy so that they understand what a social media policy is. Because they don't know what that is. That's an industry term. So notice that this is just the one-time fee, and it's just the Facebook page creation. Now, if you go to a new client and they already have a page, but it needs to be adjusted, then I would again do this Facebook business page adjustments, put the price and make sure it's a one-time fee, and then list all the things you plan to adjust on that page. And you should know what these things are because you've already looked at the page and done maybe a social media audit for it. So those are the things that you would be changing. Now, in this proposal, the monthly marketing tasks, notice I don't put content creation and posting because most business owners don't really understand that word content. So if you use the word marketing tasks, I think that they get that a little bit better. And it's something you can use different words depending on your client there. And then again, every single thing that you're going to do, notice that it's a certain amount per month and that you put ongoing so that they know that this is a monthly fee Now, then I have Facebook ad creation as a separate line item on the proposal. Notice it, I don't like just put over here Facebook ads or, add it to one of these other things. It's definitely its own thing. And the reason I suggest that people do it this way for every social media platform where they have an adjustment fee where they have to fix the account, and then they have the monthly retainer for all the things that they're going to do, and then ads separately. And the reason for this is that your client might come back in, potential client might come back in and say, I can't afford Facebook ads right now. Let's set that aside. And that way it doesn't mess up anything else that's going on in your proposal. So definitely separate them out. Um, and I'd like to put this up from Sean. He says that I've also over time streamlined my proposals, so stop putting loads of jargon on. Instead, their pages are about us, what services we offer, your investment, and terms and conditions. Right. So that's a very streamlined exact thing. And that's the point. Through time, my proposals have gone from, oh gosh, 32 pages for a proposal down to 1 or 2 maybe, depending on the client. So you don't want to overburden a client with your particular knowledge of the industry. Remember, it's all about them. It's not about you, it's all about them. And that's why you build the proposal for them. Make it super easy to understand in the words that they know, and then definitely make it easy for them to see the actual things that you'll be doing in words that they understand. So hopefully that makes a lot of sense. So anyway, this is just a particular sample that you're welcome to use, and you can just go through there and decide what it is. And again, they're all done by social media platform. So that's just one sort of example that you can use and consider the scope. Now, remember, this is a big topic right here. How do you deal with on-demand content requests? So let's say you built your proposal to have so many posts a month or a week or whatever, and then your client keeps calling you up or emailing you or whatever with more content requests. In your contract, you need to stipulate if someone goes outside of what you've listed as the list of expectations. You can put a line inside your proposal saying that anything over and above this would be X amount per task or per or an add-on, but that also needs to be in the contract. And so we'll get to that in a minute. But the cool thing about this is that I've link this up right into the Social Media Pulse community. And there is a tremendous amount of good, solid, experienced advice in here about how to handle this. So I really want to encourage you to go over to the community because there is so much good information in here from people who have experienced this on a regular basis and how they deal with it. So again, in your proposal, if it's really clear about the tasks that you're going to do, you can also have this add-on part in the proposal. Now, here's a tip. You should be able to figure out from that initial conversation if this client is the type of person who's going to do this or not. And I would suggest that either you add a buffer to what your prices for your monthly retainer, knowing that ahead of time, or being super clear about the add-on last minute type of things to add. So I think that's very important. And Sean says, Sean, you're just so great. Thank you so much for putting all these in here. I find using your investment instead of quote works as my clients now see it as an investment into their marketing. Yes, I think that's a very, very good way to put it, your investment. And also you can use monthly retainer fee because they are used to that term also. but also any words or phrases that your particular client understands is the one to use. Now, sometimes some clients see your investment as being more inside of a financial services world. So again, if you're working with a restaurant or a spa or a salon, they understand investments into their business. They realize they have to make investments. Now, if you're working with a book author, they might necessarily not use that word, right? So again, you have to really look at your potential client and use their words. And thank you, Sean, for putting this. I love the New Pulse community. It's amazing, even for someone like me who's had a business for many, many years. Yes, I do think the people inside the community are all pretty much the ones that are speaking up at the moment are very much experienced in the world of marketing. And there are a lot of people in there just soaking it up, right? And I think that's super awesome. Thank you very much for saying that. All right. Now, I did talk about this about consider the client, but I do want to point out this particular thing. This is another sample social media proposal with different words and different terms. For example, deliverables instead of list of expectations or list of tasks. Deliverables might be a term that is better suited for this particular client. And so it's basically the same thing, though. It's just a list of the things that will happen during this contract. And so this one is another one that might be better suited for you depending on the client and the terms and the words that they use. So here's another one. Now, again, a proposal isn't a contract. And for those of you who are new in the room, I kind of want to explain this. So when you have an initial consultation with a potential client, generally from there, the social media manager creates a proposal. And this is sort of like a draft for the work that you would be doing with the client. The proposal is where all the changes are made, any adjustments are made, things are changed, and that proposal might be edited and sent back and forth several times. This is where you need to get super clear on who provides what, when, and where, right? It needs to be exactly what the client can expect from you. Now, once you have a final proposal that's been signed, then you go to your contract, and we have a sample contract inside the school. And if anybody needs a link to that, I can provide it later. But that contract, again, is a template for you to adjust any which way that works for you. Now, I know a lot of you already have your own contracts, but in case you don't have one, then you would use this contract and you would use that template to build a contract for this client and then attach the proposal to the contract and get the contract signed. All right? So that's the process. And of course, both parties get both the contract and the proposal, final proposal. So that's just for new people in the room in case you're wondering the difference between a proposal and a contract. Now, this is something that I really like a lot, like a lot. This is a what they called a welcome package. It's basically a note that welcomes in a new client. But what it does is it reinforces those key points in the proposal and the contract that you might think they might need to remember. So let's look at an example of this. This is from somebody from that I think this would be a really good one to use as a template, right? So basically, it's a new client welcome package, and it gives a little bit on the background, all the contact information, and a way to contact them. And this should be in the contract. The best way to speak to the social media manager. And so that information is on page 1 so people can see that right away. And then what they do is they talk about this thing right here. their business hours, our promise to you that we'll do our very best to respond within 1 business day. So this is very important. And now I'm kind of going into the contract world here a little bit instead of the proposal, but I think it's a good point. And because you need to make this point in the proposal too, in terms of how to adjust things, the process for adjusting things, and how to contact you. So I think this is really important to highlight this again, even though it was in the proposal and the contract and now in the welcome package. Talks a little bit about the tools that they use, how they take payment, and then their next steps. And these are very important things that need to happen with them. And then what will happen next, and then just a little more information. So it's a really nice welcome package. It's something that if I were a client and I had just received this from my new social media manager, I would I'm the kind of person who would print it out and have it on my desk and look at it if I need to contact them. So again, this is a very important step to create the whole package that really converts and brings you good services. Because also, you have to remember that most new business comes from referral. And if your new clients receive this lovely welcome package and maybe even gift for coming on as a new client, then that's the type of thing that makes them want to tell other people. So consider the welcome package. So, Sean, I know that a lot of social media managers have an onboarding process where they bring people in and all of that. But have you ever thought about titling something a welcome package? I'm very curious about that. So, now, next on this is turning the page. Ah, there it is. All right. Now, back to the very beginning of this, and this one right here. So when you have that initial consultation, I know some people record it, some people take notes, some people have a VA or an admin that takes notes. Some people do it online and record so that they can capture everything that they need. So I'm super curious from Sean, if you're still here, Sean, what it is that you do when you have that initial conversation so that you can capture everything that the client needs. And I'm going to turn this off for a moment. And while he's typing that out, I want to remind everyone that this is open office hour, which means you can write in your questions and I can answer them. And it doesn't have to be on creating a proposal that converts. It can be on anything that has to do with being a social media manager. I'm happy to answer it. So the initial, in case you're here new, that initial conversation is what sets the stage for the proposal. You need to listen to the words that they use, the terminology that they use, their expectations, and capture that, and not just be pushing your own agenda. I know a lot of times we know what is good for the client, and it's very important for us to convey that. But it's also very important to listen to what it is that they're expecting out of this proposal. And if you find that a client has expectations that are unrealistic, which happens a lot, then it is a teaching moment for you to figure out a way to reframe their expectations into something that's achievable. And I know sometimes that puts a damper on their enthusiasm sometimes, but it also lets them know that marketing online can be variable. And depending on the industry, it could be very fast or very slow. And so managing those expectations right at the proposal level is really important. All right. So, any questions from anyone about any of the things that I've talked about so far? And if not, I will continue the conversation and talk a little bit more about proposals that convert. Anyone have a question? I'm happy to do it. And by the way, if you're watching this after it's live, I'm happy to answer those questions in the replay or bring them over to, I know I have this somewhere. Um, Bring them over to the Social Media Pulse community. That is where we're having the conversations. And it's everything there is free. Everything is open to you. If you are new at being a social media manager or you're very experienced, it's a wonderful place to connect with your peers. It is the place to be if you are a social media manager, no matter where you are on your career journey with this. I know a lot of people in the very beginning will meet with people as a client and they build these proposals and they learn through time that maybe this is not the client that they want to work for. And you figure that out as you go along. But if you are in the business of gaining new business, then learning how to create a proposal that converts is a very good process. All right, back to the thing. Oh, not that way, this way. All righty. So again, that initial conversation, you need to understand exactly what it is that they need to know, and you're listening to their terminology and their language. And when building that, what I tend to call that list of expectations, some people call it the task list, some people call it the deliverables, whatever the word is that you're using for that list, the more specific that you can be, the better your experience will be with this new client. So I'm going to go back to the this one right here. This is that sample services proposal. And again, this one is based on platform. So again, there is a monthly marketing task section, an ad section, and if there's anything that needs to be done to update the account, that is separate also. And the reason this is important when building a proposal that converts is that a business owner will see, oh, this is a one-time fee, this is a monthly ongoing fee, and this ad thing is a whenever we do ads type of fee. And it makes it easier for them to understand their budget and what they're agreeing to. And if you call this like an a la carte proposal, then they can say, okay, I want to do Facebook ads. I don't want to do Twitter ads. I do want to do YouTube ads. I don't want to do LinkedIn ads. So they can check off or cross out anything that they want because they're all contained inside these sections. And I think this is a really, really good way to organize your proposals. I'm going to go down to the bottom here and show you again this one for LinkedIn. Again, this is a template. You get to play with this in any way you want. So when you're doing that initial consultation, if you realize they don't even have a LinkedIn account, then you would add that here and then definitely put in all the things that you would do to get that set up with them. And then if they don't, obviously they wouldn't have a company page at that point. So you would definitely put in a one-time fee of building the company page. And then you go into the monthly marketing test for LinkedIn. And it's very important that they understand the difference between their personal account and the company page account, especially on LinkedIn. And you can describe it just like you would describe Facebook, and then they might probably get it. And one thing that you might do in a proposal like this as a template is you could have right here monthly marketing tasks I do, which you as a social media manager, And then you might have things here like monthly tasks that you do. And that puts a list of things that the client is responsible for. Now, this type of proposal where it's we do this and you do this is very important if your client already produces content or is willing to produce content for you so that they can look at those sections of the things that they are responsible for and they can set those up and create those for you. And if you do it that way, where you have client deliverables, you should have in that section when each of those things are due. All right. When each of those things would be due to you. And in general, you could say 2 weeks in advance of posting or 1 month in advance of posting or whatever it is that the client needs. That is very important to do. And when you send that welcome package that I just talked about right here, then I would definitely put on the second page a section of a reminder of all the things that they are responsible for, and also a suggestion to put those on a calendar so that they complete them. If, and I actually need to do this right here, if they do not know how to use a calendar, it's well worth your time to teach them how to create a calendar so that they keep up with those deliverables that are assigned to them. And that way you can share the calendar and you can send reminders of things that are due and help the client provide that content that you're going to need as a social media manager. Now, if your proposal includes creating the content fully, like fully creating the content, and you don't need anything from the client, then this is a gift and a curse at the same time. Um, because I hope that in your proposal, if you are the one coming up with all the content, that your monthly retainer fee reflects that time and attention you will need to put into that. And if the client is providing the blog posts and the images and the event information that you would be needing to promote, then you need to reflect that in the monthly retainer. And I would personally, if I was having the meeting that explains this proposal, I would say, thank you for creating this content. That's why my monthly fee is this low. Now, that brings up the one point I didn't talk about, and that is what happens after you create the proposal. Mostly, social media managers will come home after a consultation or get back into their office after the consultation, draw up the proposal, and then send it through email. Now, your particular client might be the kind that you need to walk through the proposal. If you need to walk a client through the proposal, um, this, depending on the client, might be time well spent if you're sure this proposal is, pretty close to being done. Because going through each point in the proposal with a client, you can do it online, you can do it in a phone call, you can do it the way that fits with you. And then checking off each point as you go through it is makes the whole experience nicer whenever there is something that comes up out of the blue that needs to be worked on, because then you have this proposal and contract to fall back on that's very specific. Okay. So that's, and Sean, I'd be very curious too, if you, do you just send the proposal or do you say, let's get together and let's talk about this proposal and make sure I captured everything that you need? What's the best way that you have found to do that? And which brings up another point. Some social media managers are not fond of the process of working with a client this way. And I just want to make the point that you are in service to them, helping them get what they need. They want to find a way to reach more people. You are helping them provide a way to reach more people. It is a wonderful thing that you are doing. And it is a gift to them to have someone be able to do this for them. So please don't feel like it's all about you needing them for income. Because if you have that mindset, and I'm going into mindset right here, that I need this mindset will not be helpful. If you can find a way to reframe how you look at creating proposals and presenting to them, then and that's in service to them to give them what they want and they need to build their business, then the feeling that you bring to a proposal is more supportive to them as a business person and supporting their wishes. So Sean says, yes, I just send and then follow up a few days with a call. Right. And some people flip that around and say, can we get on a phone call and go over this point by point to make sure I captured what you need? And I personally think that if the business person has the time, that the phone call first is the way to go. If the business person is under a lot of time stress, then what I would do is I would send a message, a voice message, and I would say, I've built this proposal based on our conversation. I believe I've captured everything that you need to reach more people. I'm going to send it to you through email, and I hope that you have a chance to go through it in the next 2 days. I will be calling you back on Wednesday or whatever it is, and we can adjust this so that it's a perfect fit for you. And then using a script like that will make them understand that it's all about them. And so I think that's a really important way to do it. And again, I know a lot of people are not so keen on doing business deals like that. And this is where, if you're in a situation where you're creating these proposals and you have the expertise to figure out how to set up the tasks and the responsibilities and what you're delivering and everything in the proposal, but you have hesitation of being with the client and talking to the client and making sure this proposal gets accepted, then it might be time for you to add on a team member who has this business acumen and has the ability to do this for you. Many, 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 many agencies were started this way, where they had skill in one or the other and then took on a team member to provide that missing piece in their own business. And so having that person do whichever way is the one that you're not the best at is always a good thing to do. And I want to encourage you to do that, because if you can create proposals all day long if you're gifted at showing people exactly what they need to reach more people online, but you don't have the ability to communicate with the client to make the proposal accepted and then to send the contract and get that signed. If that process is uncomfortable to you, then it doesn't matter how good your proposal is. Honestly, it doesn't matter, because that is a step that converts, right? So this how to write a proposal that converts is a little more nuanced than just creating a beautifully written proposal that a potential client can understand. And that comes from hard experience, people. You can write a proposal that is brilliant and not have the client sign it, because that step of connecting with them and making sure they understand it's all about them and helping them to reach more people, that's the step that needs to happen. So sorry, I just went into um, mindset businesswoman Phyllis, but I think that's really important to understand. All right, so I do want to say that all of these things that I have presented today, all of these things, the sample services, the other sample services, let's go ahead and put it like this. The the welcome package, all of these things, including the contract template and all those things, are available to you. And I just want to make sure you know that. All you have to do is either reach out to me or go over to the social um, pulse community and go into the academy, and we have all the things in there, and we're adding things all the time. We're in the middle right now of building out the business building section, which will have a lot of this kinds of training, a lot of these templates and proposals and contracts and advice on how to gain new clients. All of that will be in there. So, are there any last questions from anyone? And Sean, I just appreciate you so much for being here and giving us these gems from what you do. I actually saw Sean's whiteboard the other day on Be Real, and he has a lot of things going on, a lot of proposals out in the world, a lot of contracts being written. And and I just appreciate him working so well. And he's an award-winning website designer too. So there you go. All right. He asked the question, did you see the news about Creator Studio app coming out? Yes, I did. And I use Creator Studio every day with a client. It's the only thing that works, but I have to say, I don't schedule inside of Creator Studio. I find that to be still fairly buggy, but I do use it to manually post to Instagram for a particular client. I interesting thing about Instagram. It's a little insight into the work that I do. I have a client that actually, I'm the one in charge of the content, but we have writers who write for his blog, and we have a blog post every day. I'm the finisher, you might say. I finish them up, I edit them, I get them, I schedule them, they're all set. But I'm also the one who posts them on all the social media sites. Now, I have found through time that scheduling these newly create a blog post works better if I do it manually. So posting to Facebook page in a group, super easy. Boom, 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 done. Takes me literally 30 seconds each. I'm so fast now. This is why you could never pay me by the hour because I would not make any money at all. So anyway, Facebook page and groups, done. LinkedIn, boom, done. Twitter, boom, done. And then we have to go do Instagram. And Instagram literally takes all the time in the world because I post from Creator Studio and I post from the app for every blog post because I find that if I want to create a story, I find it easier to do it on the app. And if I want to do a post, it's easier to do in Creator Studio. So Instagram takes up all this time for me. And as far as website traffic to his website, uh, Facebook always wins because he has the largest audience there. And Instagram is gaining there just because we spend so much time educating his audience how to use the link in bio or to click in a story. Um, but if there were live links in Instagram posts, Instagram might be at least one or two in the top website things. But in terms of time spent, Facebook is like a minute and Instagram is like 15 minutes. So it's a lot of time spent. Sean says that I use Content Studio to schedule and plan out content. Well, you use it way better than I do. Good job, Sean. But you have to remember, our business models are different. My business model has always been only to work with 1 or 2 big clients only, because what I have found through time is the way that I work is I get very dedicated to the client, and I spend a lot of time in marketing and strategy and development for them. So I don't have the bandwidth to do more than 2 major clients. So I have the capacity to post manually. If I had 10 big clients, first of all, I would have a team to help me with that. I would have a small agency, because there's no way that I could do 10 major clients at all. I would be a little puddle on the ground right there. But I have found that if I need to add on a new client, and I personally am very clear about who I add on as a new client. I want to share something else with you that I have found through time too. And you might want to take this into your own account. If you're building a business in the beginning, I know the pressure to take on any client because of cash flow. I get that. I totally get that. But through time, you will find that you get to be just a little more um, picky about who you take on as a client. And I have found, and I actually learned this from Amy Landino many years ago. She had a great YouTube post about how she makes decisions and her own personal rules for life. And one of them was if an opportunity came to her, if she had a "hell yes" reaction to it, then she took it on. If it was anything less than that, that immediate gut enthusiasm for a project, if it was anything less than that, then it was a no. And I have found through time that that serves me very well, because the people who have come to me and asked for a proposal for work where my gut feeling was, eh, uh, um, then those are the clients that gave me the most trouble, hands down. But the ones that came to me and I immediately said, "Yes, yes, I want to work, yes," then those are the clients who have stayed with me the longest and have been the most fun to work with. So just a little thing like that. Yes, right here. Totally agree. I only take on clients that both myself and my team think are a great fit for our business. Don't say yes to everyone. And that's advice from people who have been doing this for a really long time. And Sean, this is great. And I'm so happy that you have this. And it's really important. So, through time, you develop an ability to say no to many situations. But if you have that, hell yes, I guess I can curse on these. I don't know. Maybe Social Media Pulse is gonna bloop out my cursing. But the proposals that you create from that feeling are always the best ones, always the best ones. And that type of proposal that shows an enthusiasm for their business and an enthusiasm for making sure they reach more people always carries with it a higher percentage of converting, just because the business person can feel the excitement. And you have to remember, a business person really likes to take on people that have, as close to possible, the same level of enjoyment of the industry. And I know Gary Vee has talked about this, and he's basically said you can't expect your employees to have the same level of excitement and dedication that you do as a business owner. And this is true. But the more you can find some glimmer of that in the people that work with you, the better your experience of them and the proposal will be. Yes, and we've all been here. Sean says when you get that nightmare customer, it usually takes the longest to get rid of without damaging your own brand. Yes, and we have some stories around that. Even recently, I think it was last year, I got an email out of the blue, like literally out of the blue, for a client I had let go 3 years prior, 3 years prior, as if it were yesterday. He said, "Why don't we have a blah, blah, blah?" And I'm like, "Hello, good morning. Nice to see you. Haven't heard from you in 3 years." This was never in the original proposal or contract. Thank you very much for emailing. It was like, what what is that? Those are your nightmare customers. Yes. And that particular client is the one that I did not have a hell yes experience with when they asked me to help them. So there you go. They can do that. All right. I have gone off into the world of ranting and raving and talking old stories. But I hope that the information I brought to you today is helpful in helping you create those proposals. Just a reminder, make sure that initial conversation is just the best and that you capture who they are and exactly what they want. Consider their words, their terminology, the way that they say things, so that when you build your proposal, it has those words instead of trying to educate them on industry terms. Then consider the scope of the proposal and make sure it's organized in a way for a business person to capture what it is that you're going to do. That's why I kind of like that a la carte package template that I have available to you. And then also having in your proposal ways to expand the proposal and how much more that would cost. But for the potential client to see that and have some understanding of what it would take to expand the contract and what that would mean budget wise, that's a very nice way to put it in the proposal so that they're not surprised. Always consider the client in terms of how to present the proposal to them. Make sure that when you create the proposal that you convey to them that this is a draft and that we can adjust it in a way that suits them and go over it with them either through a phone call or online in a way that they understand it and they agree to everything that you're doing. That's very important to get buy-in from the client so that they'll sign the proposal so that you can take the proposal and take your contract and put them together and have them signed as one thing. So that's the process. Work on the proposal until everybody gets a nice feel for it, have them sign it, and then send it with the contract. That's the way it works. And also consider using that welcome package idea that I talked about as a way to reinforce those key points in the proposal and the contract. So those are all the points that I went over today. I hope they were helpful to you. And Sean, I appreciate you and thank you very much. You are a very experienced social media manager and agency owner, and I always appreciate your insights. Thank you very much for being here. All right, that's it for me. Next week, there will be another open office hour from, I think Ruth will be here for that one, and I'm sure it will be absolutely wonderful. And thank you very much. Have a great day. If you have any questions, reach out. I'm happy to answer them. Bye.